We are going to talk about factoring. So this is another section that's not directly included in chapter 2. It's kind of like a pull-in section here. And we're talking about factoring because we use factoring quite a bit when we're trying to help us solve quadratic equations. So this is useful to know and just kind of refresh and review with you guys because you'll use it again in a coming section. So factoring is when you are like undoing your like distribution or your distributive property. So yesterday we did a little bit of that with that FOIL when you had two like binomials or a binomial and a trinomial and you're trying to multiply them. We're essentially using the distributive property to do that. What factoring is it undoes that. So it figures out if you've got this expression, what were the two binomials that you multiplied together to get that expression? So that's why I said we're kind of undoing what we did yesterday. So factoring is the process of rewriting a polynomial expression as a product of two things. So I'm just going to jump into some examples here with you guys. And I know in Algebra 1 we talk a little bit about factoring, so you probably have seen this before. It'll just take you a little bit to remember, like, what are the rules when we're factoring, like, how do we actually do this? So when you have something like number 1, t squared plus 3t minus 10, if there's no number in front of t squared other than the 1, so it's just t squared or just x squared or a squared, those are the easiest ones to factor. And there's two things that you have to think about. I need two numbers that multiply to the last number I see in my equation, which would be negative 10. So I always make myself a little chart. I need two numbers that multiply to a negative 10. And then I need those same two numbers to also add to our middle number, which is a 3. So two numbers to multiply to negative 10. Those same two numbers need to add to 3. If you don't know off the top of your head, you might have to do a little bit of guessing and checking. So if it's a number that you don't know all the factors, or if it's a bigger number and there's a lot of factors to look at, you might have to just guess a couple and see if they work. For this one, I'm thinking about the factors of 10 would be 1 and 10, 2 and 5. So it's got to be a combination of those numbers. If I think about 2 and 5, because somehow I'm thinking if I add them, I might get a 3. One of them is going to have to be negative, though, because I've got negative 10. So if I do 5 times negative 2, that would get me negative 10. And if I do 5 plus negative 2, that leaves me with a positive 3. So these must be my two numbers that work. So when it comes to actually writing it, you draw two sets of parentheses, like we saw yesterday with those problems that we were foiling. You put a letter t at the start of each one, because that t squared is going to get split into the two parentheses, and then you just drop your number. So you have plus 5, and you have a minus 2. So this would be the factored form. So let's take a look at number 2. X squared minus 17x minus 18. I'm going to set it up the same way that I did the last one. I'm going to make my little table here. I need to multiply to a negative 18, and I need to add to a negative 17. So it's always multiply to the last number, add to the middle number, whatever that is. So start thinking about your factors of 18. Since we've got negatives here, we're probably, again, going to have one negative, one positive number, so that when I multiply, I get a negative answer. Anyone think they know what the factors might be? Matthew?
Negative 1 and 18.
You're really close. Instead of negative 1, I think it should be negative 18. And positive 1, and the only reason for that is because when I add them, I want to get a negative 17. So I want the 18 to be negative, so that when I add the two numbers, I get a negative 17. Okay? So then when I go to write it, again, draw your two parentheses. We're going to drop an x into each one, because that first term was x squared, so that gets split. And then we have minus 18 plus 1. All right, let's look at one more together here before I give you a couple to try. So this one says x squared plus 2xy minus 15y squared. The only thing different here is that the last term has a y squared attached to it. This is not going to change how we do this problem. I'm still going to create my chart. So I need to multiply to the last number, which is a negative 15. And I need to add to the middle number, which is a 2. So factors of 15 would be 1 and 15, 3 and 5. I know 1 and 15 are not going to work because there's no way I could add 1 and 15, whether one of them's negative or not, and get a 2. So I'm thinking we probably got to do 5 and 3. One of them has to be negative, though. So do you guys think 5 needs to be negative, or does 3 need to be negative so that when I add them I get a positive 2? So am I going to do 5 plus negative 3 or negative 5 plus 3 to get positive 2 to come out? 5 minus 3 would be 2, right? So 3 should be negative. So 5 times negative 3, 5 plus negative 3. Because we have an x squared and a y squared, you're going to drop an x first. That gets split. And then with our numbers, we're just going to have to attach a y to them. So you're going to have plus 5 and then attach a y. So it says plus 5y and then minus 3y. And that's just because there's that y squared at the end of the problem. So it changed it just slightly. But you just got to make sure that you add that y. All right, so there's a couple here. There's 4, 5, and 6 on that front page. I want you guys, I'm going to give you like 5 minutes or so. I want you guys to try to do those 3 problems. Do all 3. All right. For number 4, I need two numbers that multiply to 5 and they add to 6. Anyone have those numbers? 5 and 1. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 plus 1 would be 6. So we would have n plus 5, n plus 1. For number 5, I need two numbers that multiply to a negative 30, and they need to add to a negative 7. Negative 10 and 3. So negative 10 times 3 would be negative 30. Negative 10 plus 3 would give me that negative 7. So those work. So we would have t minus 10, t plus 3. For the last one here on this page, number 6, what do I need my two numbers to multiply to? Negative 32, right? And then they need to add to what number? So what two numbers did that?
Negative 16 and 2.
Good. Negative 16 times 2, negative 16 plus 2. And the last term had that b squared, so when you guys wrote it out in factored form, you should have had a minus 16b, and then a plus 2.